I can do that.
Well, we'll officially get started here. I appreciate everybody being on the Zoom. I think we're the very last one that's being done, or very close to the very last one done of all the committees. And I know we're all busy people, so I thank you all for working with me and getting a date and a time. I know Victoria, it's probably a pretty early time for you. No, she says I've been at it since 6. But I just introductions here. I don't think well, I guess we can have. I know I got my committee here. I guess we can have my committee introduce themselves. Why don't we start with you, Jennifer?
Jennifer Caraway, Arkansas.
She represents the southern region. All right, Victoria, I'll just name you off so you all can know when to do this.
Victoria Schoen, from Utah. I represent the Western region.
Cade.
There we go. Good morning, Cade Rensink here, North Central Region from Kansas, driving to South Dakota at the moment.
Always a trooper there. And then we have a new member with us that none of us have met, and we really appreciate her coming on board. Alexandria, do you want to introduce yourself? We've got you on mute still.
Sorry, my computer's acting up today. Alex Smith, you can just call me Alex. I'm happy to be here, and I'm from West Virginia, so I'll be representing Northeast.
Excellent. We really do appreciate you coming on board here at this time and willing to learn with us. In fact, you've got a great opportunity because this is an excellent time because we have an experienced group for you to understand what we do. And then next year, we're going to put you in charge of everything. So.
Oh, no. I'm happy to learn and happy to hit the ground running when I can.
And Johnny's kind of in charge. Well, so let her introduce herself there.
Am I really in charge?
You bet you are. You're my go-to person.
All right, I'm Johnny Harper. If you might see my name, but might not have seen my face, I guess, on there. I'm the Program Recognition Council Chair, so I oversee your guys' committee on there, as well as like scholarship, communications, posters, all that. So it's been fun. Was previous chair for the awards and recognition on there too. So I know you guys' pain on there and just appreciate everything you guys are doing.
And Scott, I think you're the only other one on here that Scott's kind of our human AI. It's always been our human AI to make all this stuff happen.
Yep, I'm Scott Hawbaker. I'm in Central Illinois and serve as the executive director. So I'm kind of the webmaster and the e-blast guy and the AMPIC registration guy and the donor sponsor fundraising guy. And anyway, year 27. So few more to go, and eventually one day I'm going to retire, but we'll deal with that when that happens. My wife is younger than me, so it may not happen as soon as I want it to, but I love what I do. I'm just getting up there in age. So anyway, glad to be with you today.
And thank you, Scott. I don't think we have anybody else on. Last year we had a whole bunch of board members. So we'll just move right along the agenda. Just kind of give an update on our committee. I know that we may see a change with Cade coming at, I think he may be looking at a board position, but he'll be finishing out at least for this year for the council before the conference on that because he's got to be voted on by the group at the board meeting or at our conference there. So we may be seeing someone new from North Central next year, but not this year. Alexandria, we're pleased. I think you're doing a 1 year, and then you're looking at maybe completing a 2-year term after that, correct?
Correct.
And so that'll be wonderful. I know, Jennifer, you'll have 1 more year after this. Victoria, I believe you have 2 more years. Next year will be my last year, so I have 2 more of these. I'm hoping on the 4th run I'll get it right because so far I'm still on a learning curve apparently on different things, which we'll go into a little later here. Any questions, committee, before we get started, or anything, questions or things we need to add to the agenda? Okay, if not, we'll note that there are no state chairs participating in this particular Zoom today, or any regular board members with that. Got the minutes. Scott did an AI with it last year. I did editing on it, but I think I did a pretty good job in capturing a lot of stuff. We had a lot of feedback from board members, which showed up in that report. And so I guess in looking at some of those things as we review it, did you all have any issues with finding out who is the chair from your various states, or whether it was going to be the president this year? I know Scott said that the board was going to work on trying to get those names on that list by November 1, because I know it's been a problem for us in the years past. So is there any feedback on how that went this year?
I didn't have any trouble. I just called each state or emailed each one and verified if they were it. And if not, they gave me the new person's contact.
Excellent, because you got the biggest group there, Jennifer, and also I think the rowdiest group. Well, that's good. It sounds like it worked well. So appreciate, Scott, what you did, or whoever kind of got the board to move on that. Maybe Johnny did that.
It wasn't me. And I'll be honest, I think Jennifer probably even realized she had to call a whole bunch of them, because by November 1, probably 70% of them still weren't listed. And probably if I were to go in and look at the list right now, there's probably still some states that have a state president listed, but we're at the mercy of the state associations and when they hold their elections and when the new officers get into position. Sometimes they don't have a full slate of committee chairs and they have to go in and try to round people up to fill those slots. So it's a never ending challenge, but calling helps.
And I'll try to set out a reminder, since we have some Alexandra be new, to say that by this time you might as check the list and do what Jennifer said. If they're not on the list, you do the calls or emails. We'd like to confirm there by November 1 who's the representative for the state. It'll make your job so much easier by knowing that, rather than waiting till December and kind of scrambling. Alexandria and of course Victoria, your two regions are the ones that are notorious, don't have a chair of committee and will have a president that will be doing that. We kind of talked about the staging area already, and I think we'll just kind of move right on into anything on the minutes. Though, do you want it added or any questions about them? We're gonna, Scott, try to use the AI this year, give Jennifer a break. She was kind enough to do it in years past, but I think it worked pretty well. All right, my concern here, we would like to have the setup in mind, but I do not believe we can do that at this meeting here, because I think we're gonna have to have a person on site. I'm gonna be there all day Sunday. And I usually try to meet with the president at that time and get some logistic things. And of course, Scott's already there. And so, as the saying goes, as past, hang loose. We're probably gonna have to meet sometime there at the conference to go through how we're gonna get the plaques to different places and what we're actually gonna do. So I know I have several of them, but just as a reminder, just go ahead and send it to me again. If you would, please send me your cell phone number on an email. And then that way we can be able to contact each other, because unfortunately, we're going to have to do that when we get there to figure out some of this logistics on the breakfast and other things. I will try to get some of that taken care of beforehand, but as you kind of heard on our little tail end of our beginning, as Scott said, space is kind of limited in things, and some of this is just going to be figured out as we get a more definite number of who's going to be where and what we need. It's going to be a long Tuesday for us. We got the breakfast there starting very early, and then we're going to have the banquet that night. So it'll be a long day for our committee. I lobbied hard trying to get it where it wasn't the same day, but I was unsuccessful. Knowing that that would be a long day because it's a compressed conference. And so they're doing a lot of things trying to get all this in one day less compared to other years. If I'm gonna see if Victoria will volunteer again to do our thought for the day. I don't know if she's still on here or not. I don't think so.
I am. I'm
Okay.
here.
Would you be willing to do our thought for the day for the AA breakfast again?
Be love to.
All right, Scott, you got your person for your book then. He's got to put the manual thing together here soon.
Good.
Also, Scott's going to be sending out to us not too long from now as a proof of the program for the AA and DSA for us to check, make sure a last minute check to make sure the booklets are correct for your different regions. So I would like you to definitely look over your region when he does that and make sure we haven't missed something on that, so that that the program can be as professional as we'd like for it to be. Any questions there for the AA or DSA activities we're going to be doing at the conference? I know a lot of this is to be determined later. Well, if not, we'll get into more of a discussion thing. What did you think worked well this year? What did you think we could do better on? Jennifer and Cade, you can't be this quiet. Yeah.
Give me just a second. I'm actually pulling up some notes.
Well, as she's doing that, Ed, I guess I would just echo what Jennifer shared. I think for whatever reason, in terms of contacting the state chairs, it seemed like it was a little bit easier process this year. You know, part of that is due to the fact that we had that kind of updated list, but I will concur with Scott that there was a number of them either that were carryover from last year that weren't the actual chair or whatever. So I oftentimes try to go back through the member search tool and just kind of see, you know, who might have that role or whatever. But I actually didn't have very many this year that we didn't get the first shot. I think there was only maybe one or two that I ended up communicating with someone different from where I started. But just normal little hiccups, I guess, on a couple things. And Ed, you were a part of a couple of those. That one was on the cutoff for AA. We got that figured out and had to do a replacement on a DSA, I think it was. But it's always it's always a couple of those unforeseen deals that you just kind of have to work through. But I didn't feel like this year was actually quite as bad as previous years, although we had one major deal, I guess, with the Hall of Fame, but we got that figured out as well. So all in all, I thought from the submission standpoint, North Central, I think, ran pretty well.
I think on my notes, adding to what Cade said, I think we were all doing, like we all had AAs and DSAs, but nobody had the Hall of Fames ready. And of course, there was only a couple of them. So thankfully at the last minute, I think we realized it and got them up there and got it situated. But that was almost a little hiccup there because I don't think anyone had taken on the role of getting the Hall of Fames in place, ready, and having that secure. But luckily, like Kate said, at the last minute, we realized what we needed to do and we did it. But just remember, we just need to remember the Hall of Fames are there as well. The other thing that I had noted from last year was that we didn't have any idea on a time frame of when to line the people up. You know, once you get them in line, you got to keep them in line. So you don't want to get them in line too soon, but we had no idea to what time frame we needed to have these people lined up and ready to walk. That just wasn't clearly communicated last year. I thought the signage worked really good. I had made a note that we might need to add a check-in and registration signs So people knew like where to go for Southern Region check-in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think one of the things that I noted too is that it was hard to get to the seats, and this year will be completely different. I know the setup will be completely different, but I just had a note that there was no path to get to the seats, and so that the participants had a little bit of trouble doing that. And then I had noted that it was a long time in the holding area, which made people get restless and uncomfortable. So,
The pictures, Jennifer, is why there's a long time there. Is that you got to allow enough time for everybody to get their picture taken. If they
Well,
so
I-
desire, and that's always going to be a little bit of trouble. We can't tell everybody come 10 minutes ahead of time and have 60 people.
exactly. So
Your
I'd made
picture
a
in 10
note like
minutes.
maybe that the holding area maybe needs to be close to the bar area or something. To keep them-
Well, that's what we tried to chairs, because at least they would have a place to sit down rather than stand up that
Mhm.
whole time while they were waiting.
Yeah,
I just thought, I'll be frank with you, I think it's gonna be a little bit challenging for us this year.
I'm sure.
Just because they're still working on the logistics on the rooms. I know that last year, some of the hiccups you're talking about there, Jennifer, I coordinate with the president on how we're gonna do things. And when we got there that evening, and of course, the president's coordinating with the state state that's sponsoring it. When we got there last year, nothing was what it was supposed to be.
Right.
And so I have to be frank, we winged it, and I think you all did very good adjusting to it, but that's why how we're gonna go in, we're gonna go, because it was completely changed from when I met with the president and all that earlier in the day and so forth. So there,
So who-
so I'm just gonna say, we'll do our best, Jennifer, but that's part of the job of the president-elect, excuse me, the president-elect. And
So
so,
as far as the agenda goes though, on the awards banquet, is there a place on there where you can add, like notes, like make sure AAs are lined up and can be released, or DSAs are lined up and ready to walk in? Are there places for that on the agenda, like for like a what do you call it, like a program agenda sheet where it lists everything?
The
Not for
script.
not
Yeah.
everyone else, but just
We,
for
we,
the
we call it the script.
script sheet.
That's just what we've called it, but it's what the president has. It's what the AV people have. It has exact times.
Yes,
This is when you introduce, and my gut instinct is you probably never got a copy of that script, which would have said,
right.
DSAs come in at X time. I can tell you that because of the way we've got everything set up, is the 410 that are going to go in the ballroom will obviously be the DSAs, their guests, the Hall of Fames, the board members, your committee members. And so that's going to take up 150 to 175 of the seats. The AAs were they will not necessarily be assigned to that room. They will be recognized as a group, but the other rooms, it's going to be all satellite feed. So we're uncertain how everybody else is going to want to sit. There's going to be states that typically would sit together as a state. But if you've got a DSA winner, let's just say Arkansas, you've got what, one or two, maybe even three. I don't know how many DSAs are in Arkansas, but not everybody from every state can be in that ballroom. So we may have states upset that they get divided. But that's AAs. I guess the point I'm making is AAs will not be coming in as a group, at least not this year.
Maybe we can get a copy of the script this year, so
I can
we
do
have
that.
an idea of when to walk people in and have them lined up, make
Yep.
sure that they're on board.
a lot of times, Jennifer, we don't have that. I know that. I'm picking up your comfort zone, and we can work with that. I think the other thing you're wanting is something knowing ahead of time. If I can get the information, I send an email out to all the DSA and AAs about a week before and then reminding them and giving them the details, because hopefully by that time I know what we have for staging area or anything else, specifically what they're supposed to do. In fact, Jennifer, like the Southern region, I'll be telling them, they've got this every year. They're gonna get a note that says, you need to find Jennifer Caraway. She's gonna sign you in and other people in the Southern region. So I get an email. The reason why I haven't added you all is I do that on a Word, a letter format, so it takes an Excel file and just runs it in there. And of course, you all are not a DSAAA, that's why you have not seen that, but that goes out. And so, but anything you can add to with me, so I know I make that suggestion to them more accurate, that would be better. So, but I think there's more information going there than you want, than you realize. It's just some of this with the logistics of the facility and the president-elect, we just don't get the information soon enough to really get things out. Hopefully I'll have some of that for you when we meet on Monday, whenever we get things more details, but sometimes like last year, we had it all detailed out. And then we got there for the banquet, it was totally, it was as if we never met because nothing was set up and was moving like we had already planned earlier in the day.
Well, I'm just, for this particular scenario, I'm just talking about the script, and we could get that right before, just so that we know, like at this time frame, right after this event, the DSAs are going to get ready to walk in for the Southern region, then Western region. We were just last year a little bit clueless as to when we were supposed to do what. That's all I'm saying. I think if we just got a
Well-
copy of the script, that would solve a lot of that.
It's pretty straightforward. The Hall of Fame goes in first, and whatever the host district, host region will go in next, and then it goes alphabetical order after that. So it's follow the leader. And so the script doesn't really mean a whole lot. Well, we have it when they're supposed to go in, but until they open the chute. And that was our problem last year, because the very last minute, we're trying to figure out how we're gonna do this. Because there was no aisle, there was no way for them to get between things. And so we ad libbed that to, and I think you all did a wonderful job, because your script wouldn't have helped you last year. For what we ran into.
And I can tell you, regarding the aisle, I have seen a schematic of the ballroom layout with the 41 tables in place. They seat 10 that shows the stage, but I guarantee you, once again, there is no aisle. So we're going to have to figure out. My gut instinct is it will not be coming down the middle. It's most likely you're either going to take a right or a left and wrap around. It's basically a rectangular room, 3 ballrooms pieced together, with everything, all the tables spread out and the stage against the far wall in the center. And it's a very small stage. So,
It's gonna be a lot like last year's, what you're saying, Scott.
yes, stage wise, yes. Well, actually, the stage at the Anatole, I gotta remember my meetings.
Well, we basically came in from the side. We couldn't come in from the back because there was no aisle. So we had no way of kind of making a loop to the tables. So we kind of had to double back on each other to get to our seating.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain the main entryway, well, since it is 3 separate ballrooms, there probably are doors, on both on each of the 3. If let's just say if we decide we're gonna, and I don't have my directions to know whether it's the north, south, east, or west, but let's just say if you're looking at the 3 ballrooms, let's say if you're standing there and you go to the left, there would, if we're going to go into the left side and then wrap around to the front, I mean, JJ is going to be assigning the seats, and my gut instinct is he's either going to put them all in the front, the front 8 to 10 tables, and possibly into the second row, most likely into the second row. But we'll get it figured out. I will share with you the schematic. It'll show doorways. It'll show the stage. At least so you can see that, because when you get there on Sunday, it's not going to be set up that way. That final, they're going to be setting it up for other functions that take place Monday morning.
And we'll try to have it just like we've had to in the past couple of years, where we'll have the exact table, who's gonna sit at what table. That's what I'm hoping that JJ and I'll get worked out. We've done it for the last 2 years, and it's made things run so much smoother than when Johnny used to have to do this.
Yeah,
I mean, we had some free.
he's waiting for your list of the RSVP list so he knows how many people to put at each table. And to be honest, I know you said trying to get that done by next week. I've got to have that info as well, so I can make sure, because I'm having to print 4 different banquet tickets with different locations on each one. So the sooner I can get that from you, I'll get JJ off my back. And
I have to do the same thing as Jennifer. I probably have about 15 people I'll have to call. And so far, California's had a record of never calling anybody back. And last year we made a guess, we guessed wrong. We said no guest, and then they brought 3.
Last year, California, also the Californian DSA was the only recipient that brought a guest that was never told us. Like
Right,
he brought his daughter right to the banquet without telling us. And yeah, I think JJ or someone was almost get a panic attack because all the seats are filled and we have to move me around. But like it worked out, but like it just this year when we call people, we probably like make sure how many people you are
Well, I
bringing.
did that. California would never answer their phone. They wouldn't answer an email. I called their office. I was like, I didn't know for sure if the person registered, I think it was Scott, as late as you could go.
Yeah.
I mean, so we were kind of in no man's land whether the DSA was even gonna be there
Yeah.
in California, but so we make a lot of assumptions and we assumed wrong.
Yeah.
Brought a guest. So, so I appreciate, Jennifer, your comments. Those are always logistic things behind the scene I'm working on as your chair. But some of those I can't get that answer because the people have to provide it, either don't know yet or still working on it. So, but we will try to do everything we can. So that comfort zone, I can just tell you, listen to Scott right now. Be real flexible. Be very flexible. What we're going to go into this year on that. Couple of glitches. I don't think most of them were things that I had to work with. But just to give you some background in case someone says, in the Northeast, the person that was representing the vice chair there basically retired and didn't tell anybody. And so in the end, Johnny and I scrambled to get everybody's names in, and that also put in things later and caused some problems with us on some of the applications because we allowed them to come in late because of that. And then we had a computer glitch thing with Hall of Fame that Scott had not run in before on the number of names that they would allow to process with one. And then, of course, I'll be frank with you, not understanding the computer system. I didn't realize that the whole world can look at that thing I put on the voting thing, or not voting, on selection process. So I'm thinking I'm the only one seeing a few people. I went in as we were getting things and put them in there, but it's not finalized until I sent out a notice. Well, things changed, but all these individuals, I didn't realize had access, had seen things on there and couldn't understand why things changed later. That's an error on my part, not realizing the system. That won't happen next year. However, this is something I want to bring up with you all. The board has voted that the Hall of Fame will not be part of our responsibilities after this year. I wanted to get your feedback on it because the way that works is the vice president is a new vice president every year. And that vice president will be the one responsible for that. The rationale why they did that is the regional directors are the ones that select the individual. Obviously, the regional and the chair and vice chair of the regions all meet on a regular basis as a board, so they can always communicate fairly frequently. The selection of the Hall of Fame is done by the vice and the chair of the region. Unless there is a submission of somebody from the same state that chair, vice chair of the region directors is. And we had that case this year, and I guess it created problems behind the scene because somebody would ask, well, have they talked to you about who's going to be selected? And it's like, well, no, I hadn't talked to the North Central region because there was a conflict with one of the states and one of the submissions, a potential conflict. So when we had that, we sent it out to the other regions to do the voting. And that's why they hadn't been contacted. We have like a 4-step process if there's ties on how to break that. What I want to ask you all, of course, that's mainly my responsibility as the chair of the committee and not yours. Yours is to get things together. My question is, we can send a recommendation to the board saying that we probably can handle this better than the vice chair, because we're already taking applications at the deadline date, making sure they're right, and then contacting states and all that would be doing this, where the vice chair would, and then also we have some continuity from year to year. Somebody should know kind of what we're doing. Where the vice chair of the NACA, not the vice chair, the vice president of the NACA is going to be new every year. So it's going to be totally unfamiliar to that vice president every year. I'm torn here, as I've told Scott, my workload says, yeah, let's get rid of it. That'll be great. But then I think for NACA, our committee is pretty well set up really well to handle this because we just need a reminder that we got to do it. We had more applications for Hall of Fame this year than we had the other 3 years I've done this. So what's your thoughts? And you may be indifferent because most of the issues was on my level and not on your level.
Well, my 2 cents, Ed, is, we went through some processes over the last however many years to bring some consistency to the various award programs in terms of application dates and deadlines and where those are housed and whatnot. I guess from that standpoint, I would just soon keep it as part of this committee. That way we're not kind of splitting stuff back up again and confusing the membership. Now, for the most part, they're probably not even going to understand who's responsible for what. So because it's all behind the scenes, but I don't know. I feel like it fits well, and I hope it's not being changed just because of the couple hiccups we had this year, because those are unforeseen, and I don't know that they're necessarily our fault. So I'd hate for them to make that decision based on just this 1 year of a lot of applications and a couple hiccups. The other thing is, the vice president, to me, and I've never served in that role, but they've got enough other things to worry about that I just don't know that we need to add another thing to their plate, because to do it right, I mean, you really do need to kind of read through the application, make sure everything's there. And oftentimes there's quite a few questions that come from the various states on filling out that Hall of Fame application, because it is fairly complex, I guess, in terms of what all is required. So I guess for those reasons, I'd just soon us handle it. And I guess that's easy for me to say because I'm going to be leaving after this year, but I just feel like it fits on this committee.
Well, I guess I'm the same way from a feasibility and things. We've already got a thing in place. We had hiccups this year that I think we got to fix where they won't happen. I don't expect to have a vacancy in a vice chair like we did this last time. Now Connie's on here. Connie is the vice president this year. I think they're thinking more that they have other awards that the board does, and we're one of the few that they don't do. I don't know if Connie wants to add anything on this discussion or not.
Yeah, with the vice president taking over these responsibilities, it's not that much different. We already are responsible for the Dan Klaczynski Scholarship, Memorial Scholarship, making that through selection process and notification. And then same with the service to World and American Agriculture Award, as that's a pretty pristine, and the board as a whole just felt with the magnitude of this, why is the committee wanting us to take more ownership of something that we feel is such a prestigious award? And having the vice president lead that charge isn't too much to ask. In fact, it may even, we're gonna have some future discussion on it, but might even flip to the president-elect, since they're gonna be the ones that would work with you all anyways, with the seating and the banquet. But anyhow, that discussion is gonna be happening later. But as the board, they're prepared and prepped to have it be the responsibility of one of the officers, just with the magnitude and the prestige that the awards do bring. And Scott can graciously add any comments that I'm forgetting.
No, I mean, I think a lot of it, the reason why that came up during the board meeting was that if it's members of the board that are doing the judging, it probably makes more sense to just have it be coordinated by the board, since the board and members of the board are doing the judging. You know, maybe communication amongst themselves, since they're meeting monthly together. I think that probably was the gist of it. Is okay, there's members of the board that are already judging the service to American World Agriculture. There's members of the board judging. It just made more sense to make it more of a non-committee award, since it's being judged by the board. Or not all the board members, but the regional directors who are members of the board. So I think that was kind of the behind the scenes, as well. They're doing the judging. Why not just have it be another non-committee award? And as soon as that suggestion was made, the board agreed it made sense.
Well, some of the problems we might run on this thing, you all may not, but we are kind of an impartial committee. This was a lot more, we had a lot of former presidents of NACA that were up for the nomination. I think that's why there's a lot more activity this year, because they all knew each other. I know I had some regional directors basically make a comment to me, does anybody see my ballot? I don't want anybody to know what I put on there. And I don't necessarily want other board people to know what I did. And then so that was, in that respect, we were a good third party, because we don't share those with other people. And so, because I think this time they were really concerned how it looked, who they picked, and they didn't want it to be known specifically who they voted for. And our committee, by doing that, the board members don't know how the vote, you know, it's a trust thing that we're doing it, that we're doing it in a very professional and in a correct way. And that's the first time I've ran into that this year, where I basically had people say, make sure you destroy what I put on the score sheet right away. Would you please do not share that with anybody else? And so, but that'll be the vice president's problem. And I guess what I'm asking my committee, like I said, from a logistics side, since they're already at the banquet, we already out sending out notices to everybody and explaining how the seating is going to work, how everything's going to work. We're already doing that already for each state, for DSA and the other ones. To have a Hall of Fame from another state, that's a pretty simple process, because it's all tied in there. That if this committee wants to, I will put these things together and say that our committee thinks, kind of what Kate just said, we worked out a lot of the bugs, and we know how to do this every year. The vice president or whoever's going to do it on the officer side, it's going to be a brand new person every year. But it's only if the committee wants, because the boards basically said they will take it, and the board's going to determine this. But we have feedback on what we give to the board. If we want to say that, no, we think it fits very well with our AA and DSA that on logistics and the deadline dates and all that, we can just go ahead and do that. Knowing that what happened this year, those won't happen again next year. So what's your feeling, committee? Because I can put that together in my report that we would recommend to the board this, or we can just let it go to the, just let it take its path. It'll be one less thing we have to do.
Would the committee, like if the board organized the judging and the selection aspect of it, would the committee want to do the facilitating and still do what you've done, as you say you've already worked out the kinks? That way it just alleviates that, I don't know, trying to put into words what I'm trying to say here. Like if the vice president or whoever's in charge of it from the board getting the selection done, they have the winner from the Northeast, the North Central, the Southern, and the Western region. Would the committee still want to just run with it like you do the AA and DSA, since you're not judging and making those selections from your committee? Like you're still putting that together? Like, are you still wanting to organize that? Or would you just, if it's underneath the vice president or the board, like throw up the hands and be completely done with it? Like, what is the level of comfort or interest, I guess?
Well, a lot of the work's done by myself. Like I write all the scripts up for the presentation at the ceremony. I write those up. I make the contact information. I work with Scott. Scott gets the press releases out for them. There's a lot of hand holding that we do for all the other awards to make sure that they're comfortable, let them know where they sit and all that. So I think what you're saying is that you would just tell so-and-so's got the award and then we could just take it from there. And which, you know, that would work. On that, because the only thing in the voting part is, like I said, we from what I understand, we've kind of set up a process on how to do the voting, how to do when there's ties, how to do when there's potential conflicts. We have some regions, Connie, that we ask them to vote and they don't vote. Or we really have to beg them to do that. And so we're used to doing that already for the AADSAs. I got the impression this time, I think I just say the North Central, the communication didn't go that they weren't asked an original vote because there was a potential conflict with the vice regional director being from the same state as one of the nominations. We try not to have them voting. It's easy to do in the South because there are 4 people. But when you get to the other regions, then there's only 2. And if there's a conflict with one, do you really want to have one regional director doing the pick? Those are the questions and issues that come up. So if the voting is probably the most challenging part on it. The other part is just facilitating, like you said.
Ed, before I forget, and I know this doesn't necessarily answer your question, but, and maybe this is for you and Scott, and maybe it's just me, but the last 2 years on the Hall of Fame applications, there is a field in the middle of that application for the state's letter of support. And I don't know why this is.
You can't, you
but
can't put anything in it.
Right. And so
Yep.
I don't know if there's an option for us just to do away with that portion and direct them just to upload it as a
the file.
PDF.
Yeah,
I think that would solve that problem
I-
because on their end, it looks like they copy and paste it. Well, when they hit submit or save,
it
they don't
doesn't
go
say.
back and look at it and it's gone.
Yep.
And so I have to call them back and say, hey, can you just send me the file and I'll upload it as a supporting doc. So if we can just get rid of that center field and direct them to upload it along with their photo and their letters of testimony or whatever they're called from producers and colleagues.
That's an easy fix, Kate. I agree. And it totally, I was aware that was a problem, and it's one of those things I can't fix. I got to hire the web people to do.
Sure.
And I forgot to do it. And I know I've got those same calls, and I just say, just upload it as a file, type in the box, see uploaded file. And because I think sometimes if they don't type something in there, it won't let them submit the file.
Right.
But you're right.
Yeah, so normally when I've uploaded it for them, I'll just say, see
Yep.
uploaded letter or something like that in there.
And personally, I think it's better to see a formal letter than just a typed in version of what somebody wrote as a letter.
Absolutely.
So I'll get rid of it. I will shoot an email to the web people today before I forget it.
Yeah. But Ed, back to your question, you know, I don't want to be territorial about this deal. I mean, I think, like I said, we've worked with it. We know the ins and outs. You've made a valid argument on the voting side, which we as regional chairs or whatever aren't really a part of. So I think if something could be worked out where, like Connie said, if they handle the receiving and the judging and then just notify us who they are and we take it from a planning standpoint for the AMPIC. I mean, I think that's a win-win for both committees. Or like I said, I don't want to be territorial about it. I think if the VP or president-elect in the future just wants to handle it to go along with the other big awards, which I apologize, Connie, I overlooked those. I think, yeah, this is obviously a special award, and as such, it could easily be handled up top the same as the other big ones.
Well, and the other discussion comes in there, Kate, as Scott and I have talked about, the other awards are not given at this banquet. It doesn't have to be given at our banquet. It can be given at some other function at the meeting. And if the vice, and that would make sense if they're gonna do that, that would make sense that we would not do it. Because we're in charge of kind of doing the banquet, and I don't want to pick up coordinate with another meeting, another function to thing, our committee. So I guess what I'm hearing from you all is, Connie, you're on here, you've heard the discussion. We're not gonna make any formal recommendation one way or the other. You know, I think you've heard several different things that'll work. It's just that we get it communicated how we're gonna do this far enough in advance that we can kind of set up the letters that we start sending out to our state presidents and that. That would be the other thing. If we don't do the water this part, then we would not include that in our letters that go out, because that wouldn't be our responsibility. But they already do that for other awards, so that's not a big deal for NACA. So with that, I'm not gonna recommend that we say anything on that. It's gonna work either way. It really lessens the chair's role of this committee more so than it does you all.
Right.
So, all right, and we'll move. So anything we want to recommend to the board this year, though?
Well, this wouldn't be a recommendation for the board, but I apologize, I don't have notes, and Jennifer, you might have to chime in because we were kind of shoulder to shoulder on this. When we're checking people in there prior to the banquet, the DSAs, it runs in my mind that a couple things popped up last year. One was we seem to have a lot of AA winners that were trying to check in and they didn't need to. And so I don't know whether it would be worth noting at the breakfast that, hey, don't worry about checking in, just, you know, make it there, but you don't have to check in or anything. And then the other thing, I seem to remember that we were having some issues with the boutonnieres. I don't know if people were trying to take them or if the AA winners thought they were supposed to be getting them. And we finally kind of had to pull them back and guard them. And I'm not sure, maybe Victoria took that job as the bouncer. I can't remember, but those were the two things that I think I remember, but I might be off.
Yeah,
You
on the
remember right.
on the boutonnieres, they just brought a box and dropped them off and left. And so that was just another thing that, you know, and that's fine. We just winged it. It was fine. We just, once we realized they were there and that they needed them, we handled it, but there was just no clear communication on it, on who was supposed to handle it, what we were supposed to do. Somebody just brought a box in full of boutonnieres and stuck them on the table and walked off. But I mean, like you said, we winged it and figured it out.
That was the state's responsibility. There was the same thing why we couldn't enter, because Texas couldn't decide what door. they're gonna let us in and there was nobody there to make a decision. And normally the whole state takes care of the boutonniere things too. And I guess a Texas person brought the box and nobody said anything, so they just left it. It was the same way on the tickets. I go, which door are we coming in? Nobody would let us know because it was all changed. So that was your host state there. I feel like that kind of dropped the ball on that. So hopefully Montana won't do that with us out there. I mean, I guess we got spoiled because Iowa was very organized on everything they did on that. So that's why I said, though, knowing our meeting set up, the logistics in 3 different places, I think we're just gonna have to be real flexible and probably adapt the last minute to a lot of things. Just because of the challenges that the whole conference is gonna be facing. But it's a good point. And I guess, Connie, if you're working with the states, or I guess that's probably JJ, whoever's working with the state to make certain things happen, that they need to be aware of that. That that's not our job to put the boutonnieres on and all that and organize the boutonnieres. Anything else on that we need to?
On that, I'll make sure I talk to Shelley Mills, the co-chair, regarding the boutonnieres and corsages and or whatever.
Now, once again, Kate, I do let that letter I sent, an email I sent out to them. I try to explain everything. The AAs have already been told this year already that they're not coming in as a group. I told them that last year, but the people, they used to do that. So it's about 2 years now. We haven't been doing that. And so some people are still remembering that from what we did before. It eliminated most of our problems by not having them come in as a group. That's where we got messed up on tables and all that, and it was a free for all. The last year that Johnny had to do it. I mean, people were just scrambling trying to find a chair. And that's why we said you sit wherever you want. You can sit for your state, but you're not coming in as a group. We recognize them and ask them to stand as we'll recognize the Achievement Award winners, but we just ask them to stand. We don't have them as a group. So wherever they are in that room, they stand. And I've said that to them before, and I'll say it to them again when we get to when I send out the second notice of what to do when they get there. But thanks, Cade, for reminding me. That'll happen. I did it last year. I'll do it again this year. Well, I will work on a plan of work. That's for our committee. It's always a little more challenging because we're a little bit different than some of the others. And I'll get that to Johnny. That's because I gotta give her a report. Anything else? Connie, anything else you want to share as an officer with our group? We appreciate you being willing to be a vice president.
Just want to thank the committee for all their work, their willingness to step up and work through some hard issues as things have come. Really appreciate that. Appreciate those that are trimming out and going to be coming on and staying on within the committee. It takes work. Each of these committees, they really are the backbone of our organization, and some have a little bit more blood, sweat, and tears than others, but all of you have a very important place and role, and we really appreciate that. So just want to thank you all.
And I do want to stress, Connie, we're not in a turf battle on the Hall of Fame. Whatever's going to work the best, we'll accommodate that. And that's what we trust our officers to take care of that and let us know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep. Alexandria, Alex, you're new. Hopefully we haven't scared you off.
No, just trying to take it all in. I figure after I get this one under my belt, it'll feel a lot more. I'll be able to make a lot better connections with everything.
I would like to say that I think this year is going to be a little more, you're going to feel a little more disorganized than most years just because of the facilities we're working with. I think your picture of a goat with you there is probably going to be appropriate. We're probably going to be, goats are animals that adapt quite well. We're going to all be goats adapting this year.
Awesome. And we're the greatest of all time, right?
That's right. Well, if not, I don't have anything else. We don't have to be formal and ask for a vote to adjourn. I appreciate all of your time. Please contact me. Anything else comes up. And Scott, I will be getting those numbers to you, and we'll be working to make this conference a big success.
Sounds good.
So with that, all, have a great day and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.